I appreciate the opportunity to be before the board tonight to educate you on the transportation bond that's going to be on the ballot on November 4th. The first question is, why are we here? We have identified transportation needs. We have over $238 million worth of needs over the next 10 years. We've been able to identify those needs based on the planning efforts that we've undertaken with the Cape Fear Commutes 2035 Long-Range Transportation Plan, the Walk Wilmington Comprehensive Pedestrian Plan, and the Wilmington New Hanover County Comprehensive Greenway Plan. Transportation continues to be a high priority for city residents. The city conducts a citizen survey every 2 years, and traffic and transportation continuously rank number 1 or 2 in the issues that the residents have identified. Additionally, the residents through that citizen survey have identified that they would be willing to support a transportation bond in order to pay for improved traffic flow and transportation infrastructure in the city of Wilmington. We have less transportation dollars coming from the state and federal government, and we see additional growth occurring in this community. Glenn is undertaking the comprehensive plan right now, and one of the things that they've identified through their growth strategies is that they expect that the city to grow by an additional 57,000 residents over the next 20 years. So with that, we anticipate that we'll see more cars on the road, and we want to provide some additional alternative transportation options. As I mentioned, the city's going through the comprehensive planning effort, and in that effort, they've been able to go out to the various neighborhoods and conduct stakeholder input. And the number one item that the city has heard through those outreach efforts is that the citizens desire more crosswalks, sidewalks, bike lanes, and bike paths. They've also identified that the citizens desire improved traffic flow, streetscape improvements, roadway and intersection improvements. And it was based on this information that the City Council created a subcommittee comprised of Councilman Sheridan, Councilwoman Padgett, and Councilman O'Grady to look at the city's needs. If you recall, I said we have $238 million worth of needs over the next 10 years, and to try to break those needs down into what they felt the community could support. And so what they've done is dwindled those needs down to a $55 million bond package in which the city will be requesting the voters vote yes or no on borrowing $44 million for the Streets and Sidewalks Bond Initiative on November 4th. I want to talk a little bit about some recent progress that we've made, and then we'll talk about the projects that are included in the initiative. First, we want to talk about the 2006 transportation bond that the city passed, and some of the projects included in that bond referendum. The first is the North 3rd Street Streetscape Enhancement Project, which we have right outside the windows here, and you can see the aesthetic enhancements, the improvements to pedestrian crosswalks, and the lighting elements, the signals are all part of that project. The Independence Boulevard widening from Shipyard to Carolina Beach Road, the Randall Parkway widening was a joint effort between the city and the North Carolina Department of Transportation to widen Randall Parkway from College to Independence. The traffic signal system upgrade was a $10 million project in which the city partnered with the North Carolina Department of Transportation to improve, and we were operating on a DOS-based system previously, which was what they used to create Atari, and so I'd like to say now that we're going from Atari to a Super Nintendo. And then there was $1 million included in there for sidewalks. The City Council has recently adopted the 80-20 plan, which is the city's capital improvement program, and since 2012, they've been able to pave and resurface 23 lane miles, and they have several more lane miles to go over the next few years. As I mentioned, we're seeing more people and less money. The state and federal government are providing less financial resources to the area. The federal government's actually going through a transportation reauthorization and are working on a continuing resolution, so there's a lot of unknowns moving into next year what the next federal transportation bill is going to look like. Construction costs continue to increase, and then Wilmington's population is again expected to increase over the next 20 years. This is also a safety initiative. New Hanover County ranks as the #1 county in North Carolina for bicycle accidents and #2 for car crashes. And it's also among the top ranked for pedestrian accidents in the state. And this slide demonstrates the number of bicycle and pedestrian crashes that have occurred in the city of Wilmington between January 1 of '07 and December 31st of 2013. You can see that in that period there were 24 fatalities that involved bicyclists and pedestrians and 836 injuries. So we talked about the council's committee and their development of the $55 million bond package. What they've done is they used a matrix of our long-range needs and evaluated that matrix to come up with the list of projects, and it's broken down by $35 million in roadway projects and $20 million in bicycle and pedestrian projects. $44 million would be financed through the bond initiative, and then the other $11 million would come from the city's capital program. If this bond is approved, it would result in an up to 2-cent property tax increase. And what that equates to is a house of approximately $200,000 in value would be about $40 per year, or about $3.34 per month. This map demonstrates the geographic distribution of the roadway projects. As you can see, we have streetscape and aesthetic enhancements. We have access management improvements, roundabouts, intersection improvements, and new capacity roadways. The list of roadway projects includes Eastwood Road access management improvements from Cardinal Drive to Military Cutoff Road. The Carolina Beach streetscape enhancement is from Burnett Boulevard to Shipyard Boulevard. The North Front streetscape enhancement would be a continuation of the city's efforts on Front Street. If you recall, the city in several years back made improvements to Front Street between Market and Chestnut. This would carry those on between Chestnut and Red Cross. Then the Dawson-Wooster streetscape enhancements would be on Dawson and Wooster between 3rd and 17th. And this would be continuing the city's efforts that have been made on Dawson between 3rd and 5th, continuing those efforts and also working toward implementing the Dawson-Wooster corridor study that was developed back in 2006, 2007. There's also 2 new capacity roadways, or new alignment roadways in this package. The Lovegrove access improvements. If you recall, about a year and a half ago, there was a train derailment which prohibited access to and from the Lovegrove community. And so this project would provide an additional access to Lovegrove from 23rd Street via One Tree Hill Way. And then there's Hurst Drive extension, which would provide a connection between Carr Avenue and College Road near the university. It would carry Hurst Drive across through the old cinema property. And that would help to take traffic off of Wrightsville Avenue, Randall Parkway, Wilshire Boulevard. And that project we'll talk a little bit more about when we get into the bike ped initiatives. There's intersection improvements included in this initiative. Intersection improvements at Pine Grove and McMillan, the realignment of Oleander Drive and Pine Grove. Currently, if you're traveling down Pine Grove Drive, it's on a skew when it crosses Oleander Drive, and the intention here would be to create a 4-way intersection. The Racine Drive and New Center, we would be adding a southbound right turn lane from Racine Drive on to New Center. That typically backs up in the AM and the PM and lunch hour periods. And then we have several roundabouts, Wallace and Wrightsville, Pine Grove and Greenville Loop, and Holly Tree and Pine Grove. It's envisioned that the Pine Grove corridor would be a roundabout corridor, and by installing roundabouts there, you would create a free flow movement, help to reduce accidents, and help to improve traffic flow in that area. There's funds in the bond for coordination with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. The DOTs went to the Strategic Transportation Investment Formula, which is a new formula in which they allocate their funding. And so in that formula, there's a payback clause which would allow for the city, if they desired to put up some funds to accelerate a project, they would be paid back in the Transportation Improvement Program in the out years of the program, as well as DOT is currently going through that process and will create a draft state transportation improvement program in November, December, and so there might be some opportunities here for the city and the state to work collaboratively to advance a project in that step. This map demonstrates the bicycle and pedestrian projects. As you can see, there's sidewalks, crosswalks, and multi-use trails. The sidewalks were mainly focused on filling in gaps, creating a network of sidewalks throughout the community. And so the council had identified the need to focus on Oleander Drive, Wrightsville Avenue, 23rd Street, Delaney Avenue over near the medical center, and then in East Wilmington, McClellan Drive, Fairlawn Drive, Clover Road, and Gleason Road. And it's important to point out that those sidewalk projects connect with the North Carolina Department of Transportation's Carr Avenue widening, in which DOT will be widening Carr Avenue from Randall Parkway out to the Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway. And as part of that effort, the city had contributed funds for the installation of sidewalks and bike lanes. So this will help to create that network in East Wilmington. Intersection improvements to create safer crossings and to improve safety. Those include improved crossings at Carr and Wilshire, College and Wilshire, and then on Dawson Street at 13th, 16th, 17th, 8th, and then at Holly Tree and College, which is going to play into our trail network here in a second. And we do have 4 multi-use trails included in this package. The first is the Greenville Loop Trail, which actually connects with the River to Sea Bikeway at Park Avenue, travels along Greenville Avenue, along Greenville Loop Road, and then down and connects at Holly Tree and College, where we're making some proposed intersection improvements as part of this initiative. And then that would actually intersect with the South College Trail that would connect from Holly Tree to 17th, which then connects with the Gary Shell Cross City Trail. Then we also have the Carr Avenue multi-use trail that would go from Randall Parkway along Carr Avenue and then go parallel to the Hurst Drive extension through the old cinema property there between Carr and College, and then tie into the university. And then the Masonboro Loop Trail, which would go from Pine Grove Drive down to Navajo Trail. It connects 2 shopping centers, the residential areas with Parsley Elementary School, and this was also part of a Safe Routes to School initiative that the city had undertaken back in 2007. Some key dates as we move forward with this referendum is that voter registration deadline is October 10th, and the election day is November 4th. There's more information on the city's website at wilmingtonnc.gov/transportation 2014. On that website, there's information by project area. There's also YouTube videos that describe the projects. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kozlowski. Appreciate your presentation. Please make sure you all make note of those important dates. This is something that's coming up on the election date. It's very important to our city, and it is directly coming from what the people have requested, and I think this is very important. So, thank you very much, Mike.